Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay, Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Thank you very much for tuning in. Nice to see so many of you continuously attending this Srimad Bhagavatam. So today we will be discussing chapter 4 of 4th canto. This is the chapter is entitled Sati quits her body, wife of Lord Shiva quits her body. That is the chapter title we will discuss today. But let me offer obeisances to the spiritual masters and other Vaishnavas, and then we can begin. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Prachatya Deshatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, everyone. So welcome back. And there is another one, Kanika Nilala. So I hope that is also she's also, I think she's a Mataji. Very welcome to the Bhagavatam overview. I'm going to share the screen. Okay. So we'll ask someone to read. Okay. Ambhada Prabhu, are you able to read? Can't hear you. Oh, so no, you're not in. No. Okay, let's ask Manjula Mataji. Okay, let me just, there is a little problem with Ambhada Prabhu.
Yes.
One second. I'll just mute.
It's an honor. Can you hear me?
Oh, better now. Much better now. So first 10 verses, please. We can't hear you. Okay, maybe it's.
Can I read?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay. The sage, text 1, the sage Maitreya said, Lord Shiva was silent after speaking to Sati, seeing her between decisions. Sati was very much anxious to see her relatives at her father's house, but at the same time she was afraid of Lord Shiva's warning. Her mind unsettled, she moved in and out of the room as a swing moves this way and that. Text 2, Sati felt very sorry at being forbidden to go to see her relatives at her father's house, and due to affection for them, tears fell from her eyes. Shaking and very much afflicted, she looked at her uncommon husband, Lord Shiva, as if she was going to blast him with her vision. Text 3. Thereafter, Sati left her husband, Lord Shiva, who had given her half his body due to affection. Breathing very heavily because of anger and bereavement, she went to the house of her father. This less intelligent act was due to her being a weak woman. Then, text 4, when they saw Sati leaving alone very rapidly, thousands of Lord Shiva's disciples, headed by Maniman and Mada, quickly followed her with his bull Nandi in front and accompanied by the yakshas. Text 5, the disciples of Lord Shiva arranged for Sati to be seated on the back of a bull and gave her the bird, which was her pet. They bore a lotus flower, a mirror, and all such paraphernalia for her enjoyment, and covered her with a great canopy. Followed by a singing party with drums, conch shells, and bugles, the entire procession was as pompous as a royal parade. Text 6. She then reached her father's house where the sacrifice was being performed and entered the arena where everyone was chanting the Vedic hymns. The great sages, Brahmanas, and demigods were all assembled there, and there were many sacrificial animals, as well as pots made of clay, stone, gold, grass, and skin, which were all requisite for the sacrifice. When Sati with her followers reached the arena, because all the people assembled were afraid of Daksha, none of them received her well. No one welcomed her, but her mother and sisters, who with tears in their eyes and with glad faces welcomed her and talked with her very pleasingly. Text 8. Although she was received by her sisters and mother, she did not reply to their words of reception, and although she was offered a seat and presents, she did not accept anything, for her father neither talked with her nor welcomed her by asking about her welfare. Text 9. Present in the arena of the sacrifice, Sati saw there were no oblations for her husband, Lord Shiva. Next, she realized that not only had her father failed to invite Lord Shiva, but when he saw Lord Shiva's exalted wife Daksha did not receive her either. Thus, she became greatly angry, so much so that she looked at her father as if she were going to burn him with her eyes. Text 10. The followers of Lord Shiva, the ghosts, were ready to injure or kill Daksha, but Sati stopped them by her order. She was very angry and sorrowful, and in that mood she began to condemn the process of sacrificial fruitive activities and persons who are very proud of such unnecessary and troublesome sacrifices. She especially condemned her father, speaking against him in the presence of all. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Mataji. So this is a continuation from the previous chapter, which is entitled "Talks Between Sati and Lord Shiva." So we are aware that there is the Daksha was envious of Lord Shiva, and he blasphemed Lord Shiva, even though Lord Shiva was innocent. We also studied that the main reason for Daksha being proud for envy is because Shiva's position is much higher, greater than Daksha's position, and because being very puffed up, and as a result of being puffed up, he is not able to realize this fact, and he was always envious of Lord Shiva. So he was a Prajapati. Prajapati means one of the progenitor of the mankind. and so he was made chief of all the progenitors, and because of that he was very proud. Um, so this was and yeah, because of the pride, he blasphemed Lord Shiva. Mm. We know that Daksha gave his daughter Sati, 16th daughter Sati, to Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva is son-in-law of Daksha. So in the previous chapter, we had seen that Mother Sati had noticed many heavenly beings were attending, were traveling in the sky to attend the great sacrifice that is being performed by our father Daksha. So she approached, seeing everyone going to the sacrificial ceremony. Sati approached her husband, Lord Shiva, and said to him that, my lord, you see, everyone is going to go to this sacrificial ceremony that is being performed by my father, and my sisters will come, my relatives will come. So it would be very nice for us to go as well. Let's please go. We don't need invitation. It's after all my parents' place. To go to one's friends or parents' place, they don't need an invitation. So let's go. So Lord Shiva said that because he's envious of me, so it would be not good for me to come there. And because you are connected to me, even if you go on your own, you will be ill-treated. So my request to you is that please do not go, because you will be ill-treated there. And that was the advice of Lord Shiva to Mother Sati. So in this chapter, and we see that so Sati decides to go to Daksha's sacrifice, her father's sacrifice. She was thinking, what to do between husband and the father. So she deeply thought about it. So with extreme emotions of anger and lamentation, so she decided to go, not to follow the words of her husband, because she became very emotional. Because there is a very nice festivity going on, and all her relatives and sisters would come. If she goes there, she can always meet them, talk to them. So she decided to go. Then Lord Shiva sent his followers, at least, please accompany Sati. So Maniman and other associates of Lord Shiva, Mada and Nandi, all other ghostly beings, yakshas, all others accompanied Mother Sati while she was traveling. She was, given, she was placed on Nandi the bull, and she was given a parrot and a mirror, and a lotus flower as well, umbrella, fan, and a garland, and they put a nice canopy on top of the Nandi the bull, and all these beings accompanied her to her father's place, sacrifice, where sacrifice was going on. When she went there, she saw all the nice arrangements. Mother Sati saw all the nice arrangements for conducting a sacrifice. And our father did not welcome her. She received a very, very cold response from our father. She was not invited for the sacrifice. Even though she went there without invited by Daksha, so he didn't say any sweet words or welcome her. However, her mother, Prasuti, and all other 15 sisters, they were happy to see Mother Sati, and they welcomed her with sweet words and tried to give her some gifts, etc., etc. However, she did not receive the gifts, and she was not happy because Daksha didn't even say a word. It is said that even if an enemy comes to your home, you should welcome that person so nicely, so that the enemy would forget all the enmity. That's how one should behave. Even an enemy comes, what to speak of your own family member comes. That is the Vedic tradition. And so Sati also noticed that there were no oblations dedicated for Lord Shiva. When a sacrifice is done, so they offer oblations into the fire, and by uttering various mantras, like they offer oblations to various demigods, including Lord Brahma and other demigods, and of course Lord Vishnu. Lord Shiva should also be offered oblations. But however, she noticed that there were no oblations meant for Lord Shiva's pleasure there. That he is one of the chief demigods, so he should be offered oblations as per the Vedic custom, any yajna that is performed. So two reasons: no oblations for Lord Shiva, and she was not received by our father. So she became very angry, and she, as Sati, condemns the sacrifice. So when she became very angry, the followers of Shiva, they were waiting there, and they became ready to kill. The followers became ready to kill Daksha, but Sati stopped them. However, she was very angry, sorrowful, and she started condemning the process of fruitive sacrifices and their proud performer like Daksha. She started condemning our father. So these sacrifices sometimes are done with an expectation. They do the sacrifice with the expectation. That is called fruitive action, fruitive sacrifice. A sacrifice done for the pleasure of the Lord without any expectation, that is much greater. But all these sacrifices, they have a motive behind them. So she condemns, and in the next section, we will see how Sati condemns Daksha. So from text 11 till 23. Okay. Hare Krishna, been testing my sound. It should work now. Okay. Our Ambara Prabhu, are you ready?
I'm trying. Can you hear me?
No. It's I think it's a little bit still. There is a little bit issue with it. We will ask Amogha Das Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
From 11 till 23, please.
Okay. Hare Krishna. Text 11. The blessed goddess said, Lord Shiva is the most beloved of all living entities. He has no rival. No one is very dear to him, and no one is his enemy. No one but you could be envious of such a universal being, who is free from all enmity. Text 12. Twice born Daksha, a man like you can simply find fault in the qualities of others. Lord Shiva, however, not only finds no faults with others' qualities, but if someone has a little good quality, he magnifies it greatly. Unfortunately, you have found fault with such a great soul. Text 13. It is not wonderful for persons who have accepted the transient material body as the self to engage always in deriding great souls. Such envy on the part of materialistic persons is very good because that is the way they fall down. They are diminished by the dust of the feet of great personalities. Text 14. Sati continued, My dear father, you are committing the greatest offense by envying Lord Shiva, whose very name, consisting of two syllables, Si and Va, purifies one of all sinful activities. His order is never neglected. Lord Shiva is always pure, and no one but you envies him. Text 15. You are envious of Lord Shiva, who is the friend of all living entities within the three worlds. For the common man, he fulfills all desires, and because of their engagement in thinking of his lotus feet, he also blesses higher personalities who are seeking after Brahmananda, transcendental bliss. Text 16. Do you think that greater, more respectable personalities than you, such as Lord Brahma, do not know this inauspicious person who goes under the name Lord Shiva? He associates with the demons in the crematorium. His locks of hair are scattered all over his body, and he is garlanded with human skulls and smeared with ashes from the crematorium. But in spite of all these inauspicious qualities, great personalities like Brahma honor him by accepting the flowers offered to his lotus feet and placing them with great respect on their heads. Text 17. Sati continued, If one hears an irresponsible person blaspheme the master and controller of religion, one should block his ears and go away if unable to punish him. But if one is able to kill, then one should by force cut out the blasphemer's tongue and kill the offender. And after that, one should give up his own life. Text 18. Therefore, I shall no longer bear this unworthy body, which has been received from you. You have blasphemed Lord Shiva. If someone has taken food which is poisonous, the best treatment is to vomit. Text 19. It is better to execute one's own occupational duty than to criticize others. Elevated transcendentalists may sometimes forego the rules and regulations of the Vedas, since they do not need to follow them, just as the demigods travel in space, whereas ordinary men travel on the surface of the earth. Text 20. In the Vedas, there are directions for two kinds of activities. Activities for those who are attached to material enjoyment and activities for those who are materially detached. In consideration of these two kinds of activities, there are two kinds of people who have different symptoms. If one wants to see two kinds of activities in one person, that is contradictory. But both kinds of activities may be neglected by a person who is transcendently situated. Text 21. My dear father, the opulence we possess is impossible for either you or your flatterers to imagine. For persons who engage in fruitive activities by performing great sacrifices or concerned with satisfying their bodily necessities by eating foodstuff offered as a sacrifice. We can exhibit our opulences simply by desiring to do so. This can be achieved only by great personalities who are renounced, self realized souls. Text 22. You are an offender at the lotus feet of Lord Shiva. Unfortunately, I have a body produced from yours. I am very much ashamed of our bodily relationship, and I condemn myself because my body is contaminated by a relationship with a person who is an offender at the lotus feet of the greatest personality. Text 23. Because of our family relationship, when Lord Shiva addresses me as Dakshayani, I at once become morose, and my jolliness and my smile at once disappear. I feel very much sorry that my body, which is just like a bag, has been produced by you. I shall therefore give it up. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
So this is how Sati condemns Daksha. Daksha. So one important point in text 10, so she became angry, and she condemns Daksha. And Prabhupada mentions one important point about anger. mm. Anger has its use. mm. Um, Anger has its use. Arjun. Prabhupada gives two examples in Nectar of Instruction about anger. Mm. Anger should be controlled, but it can be used appropriately, just like Hanuman. Mm. Hanuman went to Lanka out of anger. He burnt whole Lanka. He set whole Lanka on fire in the service of Lord Ramchandra. That anger is excellent. It is used in the service of Lord. Mm. And another example also Arjun. Mm. When out of angry mood, he had to exhibit some anger when he was fighting the battle. Mm. Again, that was for the pleasure of the Lord. Mm. So here, Sati, she's actually expansion of Mother Durga. She is the external energy of the Lord, Supreme Lord. She is Vaishnavi, Narayani. She is also named as Narayani. She's so powerful, and a greatest Vaishnavi you can call. So how come she became greatly, angry? One may question, but one can express anger for the right reason, right purpose. And here Prabhupada mentions in the text 10, let me read a little bit from text 10. Yes. Here. We have anger, and that anger can be a great quality when directed against a person who is envious. Let me just highlight that. We have anger, and that anger can be great quality when directed against a person who is envious of the Supreme Personality of Godhead or his devotee. One should not be tolerant when a person is offensive towards Vishnu or a Vaishnava. The anger of Sati towards her father was not objectionable, for although he was our father, he was trying to insult the greatest Vaishnava. Thus, Sati's anger against her father was quite applaudable. Jai Ho. So I thought that's an important point. So what does Sati say? Yeah. So from text 11 onwards. So he is loved by all living entities. Sati tells that Lord Shiva is beloved of everyone. He has no enemy. Yes, he is equal to everyone. And he is a friend to every living entity. And no one but you could be envious of such person. Only you are envious of him. No one is envious of him. He is such a friendly person. And in text 12, she addresses Daksha or Ati Asadutama. Ati Asadutama. So she tells Lord Shiva is such a person, he doesn't find any faults in anyone, but what he does is if there is a little good quality in anyone, he magnifies it. Yeah, he doesn't find fault in anyone, with anyone. And even if there is a very tiny good quality, he magnifies it greatly. But you are the other way. Even if there are some good even if there are plenty of good qualities in other person and there are no faults in other person, you try to find fault in Lord Shiva. So he is such a person, he doesn't have any fault and full of good qualities, yet you are finding fault. So you are an offender. And just because you are a materialistic attached to these sacrifices and fruitive sacrifices, you are expecting some benefit out of these by performing these sacrifices. You are a materialistic person, and envying Lord Shiva only leads to fall down. So the Shiva, how can you find fault? The literal name of Shiva means auspicious. Shiva means auspicious. That is the literal meaning of Lord's name. Lord Shiva is always pure, and no one but you envies him. And then, yeah, you think, you are greater than Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva appears to wear some human skulls and he smears ashes from the crematorium. But even though, he appears like this, even great personalities like Lord Brahma, they ready to accept the flowers which are offered to his lotus feet. You may look at him externally. You may see him that why is he wearing human skulls? Why is he smearing the ashes from crematorium? But actually, if you observe closely and deeply, that Lord Brahma, who is your father, is ready to accept the accept the flowers offered to his lotus feet. Don't you understand the greatness of Lord Shiva? And she tells wonderful thing in text 17. So this is what one should do. If one hears, blasphemy of a Vaishnava or the Supreme Lord, how should one behave? So yes, if someone is blaspheming Vaishnava or a devotee of the Lord or the Lord himself, what he should do? One should block his ears and go away from that place. If one is unable to punish him, ideally, you should punish that blasphemer. And if you are a Kshatriya, it is said that a blasphemer should be killed. A blasphemer's tongue should be cut. Offender tongue should be cut. Or otherwise, one should block his ears and go away from that place. And so then Sati says, no, I have received this body. This is unworthy because, I have received this body. So she gives an example. If one takes some poisonous food, one must vomit. Similarly, I've received this body from you. So who are an offender of Lord Shiva. So I must do something to this body. So it is said that either you block your ears and go away, or you can give up your body, or you can punish the offender or cut the offender's tongue. These are the different remedies that are given. So, and then she then tells that there are two types of activities that are given in the Vedas. There is pravrutti and nivrutti. Pravrutti means material enjoyment, and nivrutti means opposite, like detachment. So, but the elevated people, they are above these two principles: material enjoyment and material detachment. They are above this. These two activities. Lord Shiva is above these two activities. Let's read text 20 a little bit. We understand this principle. So Anupama, Radhika, are you there?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yeah, can you read the purport? I will stop you.
You want me to read the translation or the purport?
Purport, please.
Okay. All right. Purport. The Vedic activities are so designed that the conditioned soul who has come to enjoy the material world may do so under direction, so that at the end he becomes detached from such material enjoyment and is eligible to enter into the transcendental position. The four different social orders, Brahmacharya, Grahastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyasa, gradually train a person to come to the platform of transcendental life. The activities and dress of a Grahastha or householder are different from those of a sannyasi, one in the renounced order of life. It is impossible for one person to adopt both orders. A sannyasi cannot act like a householder, nor can a householder act like a sannyasi. But above these two kinds of activities, there is a person who is transcendental to both. Lord Shiva is in the transcendental position because, as stated before, he is always absorbed in the thought of Lord Vasudeva within himself. Therefore, neither the activities of the Grahastha nor those of the sannyasi in the renounced order can be applicable for him. He is in the Paramhamsa stage, the highest perfectional stage of life. The transcendental position of Lord Shiva is also explained in Bhagavad Gita 2.52-53. It is stated there that when one fully engages in the transcendental service of the Lord by performing activities without fruitive results, one is elevated to the transcendental position. At that time, he has no obligation to follow the Vedic injunctions or the different rules and regulations of the Vedas. When one is above the direction of the Vedic ritualistic injunctions for attaining different allurements and is fully absorbed in the transcendental thought, which means thought of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in devotional service, one is in the position called Buddhi Yoga or Samadhi, ecstasy. For a person who has attained this stage, neither the Vedic activities for realizing material enjoyment nor those for renunciation are applicable. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Thank you very much, Mataji. So, Prabhupada gives a wonderful example like a householder as his duties. Householders are generally, they engage in the material sense enjoyment. And sannyasi, he also follows the rules. A grihastha, proper householder, follows the rules and enjoy the material sense enjoyment. And a sannyasi, and he is detached, but he also follows the Vedic regulations, the rules and the regulations that are given in the Vedas for a sannyasi. But there is another category, Paramahamsa category. transcendentalists. They are above both Grihasthas and Sannyasis. They are called Paramahamsa. So they need not to follow any of the rules that are given in the Vedas. They are Paramahamsas. Our Nityananda Prabhu, he is also Paramahamsa. You can never predict his behavior. Very difficult to predict his behavior. With these Paramahamsa, they are fully absorbed in the thought of Lord Vasudeva. Always they are thinking, meditating on the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu. So Lord Shiva is on that level. So that's why he doesn't follow, because Daksha criticized Shiva, saying that he wears human skull, or he wears some ashes on his body, is unclean, like that. He was blaspheming, but actually he's above, above the rules that are given in the Vedas. So these rules doesn't apply to Lord Shiva, because he's in a very, very in a transcendental situation. So, and then saying that, so Mother Sati, she also says that, do you think we don't have any opulences? Our opulences, are much greater than your opulence. We don't exhibit externally. So Lord Shiva, all Lord Shiva's devotees are very rich, but however, Lord Shiva simply lives under a banyan tree. He's so simple. He doesn't need anything. But Mother Sati says, you think, we externally we look simple, but however, we fall under a different category of exalted personalities. Our opulence is much greater than yours. So you are an offender, and I condemn myself because my body is contaminated by the relationship with you. So saying this, so she then went into samadhi, a meditation, to give up our body. So we will see that in the next section, from text 24 to 23. Let me share the screen. Meena Jatani Mataji, are you able to read by any chance?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Haribol, thank you. Please, text 24 onwards, please, till the end of the chapter.
Thank you, Hare Krishna. Maitreya, the sage, told Vidura, O annihilator of enemies, while thus speaking to her father in the arena of sacrifice, Sati sat down on the ground and faced north. Dressed in saffron garments, she sanctified herself with water and closed her eyes to absorb herself in the process of mystic yoga. Text 25. First of all, she sat in the required sitting posture, and then she carried the life air upwards and placed it in the position of equilibrium near the navel. Then she raised her life air mixed with intelligence to the heart, and then gradually towards the pulmonary passage, and from there to between her eyebrows. Text 26. Thus, in order to give up her body, which had been so respectfully and affectionately seated on the lap of Lord Shiva, who was worshipped by great sages and saints, Sati, due to anger towards her father, began to meditate on the fiery air within the body. Text 27. Sati concentrated all her meditation on the holy lotus feet of her husband, Lord Shiva, who was the supreme spiritual master of all the world. Thus, she became completely cleansed of all taints of sin and quit her body in a blazing fire by meditation on the fiery elements. Text 28. When Sati annihilated her body in anger, there was a tumultuous roar all over the universe. Why had Sati, the wife of the most respectable demigod, Lord Shiva, quit her body in such a manner? Text 29. It was astonishing that Daksha, who was Prajapati, the maintainer of all living entities, was so disrespectful to his own daughter Sati, who was not only chaste but was also a great soul, that she gave up her body because of his neglect. Text 30. Daksha, who is so hard-hearted that he is unworthy to be a Brahmana, will gain extensive ill fame because of his offenses to his daughter, because of not having prevented her death, and because of his great envy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Text 31. While people were talking among themselves about the wonderful voluntary death of Sati, the attendants who had come with her readied themselves to kill Daksha with their weapons. Text 32. They came forward forcibly, but Bhrigu Muni saw the danger and, offering oblations into the southern side of the sacrificial fire, immediately uttered mantric hymns from the Yajurveda by which the destroyers of yajnic performances could be killed immediately. Text 33. When Bhrigu Muni offered oblations in the fire, immediately many thousands of demigods named Ribhus became manifested. All of them were powerful, having achieved strength from Soma, the moon. Text 34. When Ribhu demigods attacked the ghosts and Guyakas with half-burnt fuel from the yajna fire, all these attendants of Sati fled in different directions and disappeared. This was possible simply because of Brahma Teja's Brahmanical power. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
So after condemning Daksha, Mother Sati, she went into mystic yoga. And for that, she purified her hands and her body by taking achaman, by touching water. And then she performed Shat Chakra Yoga and raised her life air from navel to heart, to throat, and then to the center of eyebrows. The life air she raised, and she started to meditate on the fire. There is a fiery element, and she was also thinking of her husband, on the lotus feet of her husband. So she began meditating on the fiery air within our body. And so that's how she gave up her body, meditating on the holy feet of her husband, who is Jagat Guru. Sati became completely cleansed and quit her body in a blazing fire by meditation on the fiery element. Just by meditating on the fiery element within the body, so there is a fire, blazing fire that came out and burnt the body of Mother Sati, and that's how she gave up her body. And then there was after seeing this, there was a great roar or great cry that has arisen from the sky. And what had Sati done? Why had Sati, dear Shiva's wife, had to quit her body in this way? Why did Daksha neglect her? And he is very hard-hearted, is very unworthy to be a Brahmana. Why he couldn't stop Sati, quitting her body like this? He will, get the ill fame. Like that, there was a great cry, from the sky. And after Sati gave up her body. The attendants of Sati, they immediately rushed towards the sacrifice and tried to cause some disturbance and probably kill Daksha. But immediately Bhrigu Muni, he saw the attendants of Lord Shiva were coming to the sacrifice. He offered some oblations into the fire, sacrificial fire, and uttered some mantras. And there are special personalities called Ribhus, very powerful personalities, and they came and they attacked the attendants of Lord Shiva and Sati. And so the ghosts and guyakas and off-burned fuel from the yajna fire, all these attendants of Sati, they fled in different directions. So because these Ribhu demigods, they are very powerful, who appeared from the sacrificial fire by uttering the mantras. When the Bhrigu uttered the mantras, so they came out and they basically driven away the ghosts and guyakas. So that's how this chapter ends. So it is so great to see how Sati responded to the behavior of our father. So she decided to give her body up in this way because she could not tolerate the offense to her husband, and who is a great Vaishnava. It's not just because of her husband, but he's a great Vaishnava, great devotee of the Lord, and is friendly to all living beings, and is non-envious, equal to every living entity. So such a great personality was offended by Daksha. So because she doesn't want to cut the tongue of her father, and she doesn't, of course, not going to kill her father, and so she decided better to give up our body in that way. So I'll stop there. If anybody has any comments or any questions, please do so.
Prabhuji, can you go back to text 30, please? The purport. I mean the translation.
Yeah.
Okay, so where it's saying Daksha, who is so hard-hearted that he is unworthy to be a Brahmana, will gain extensive fame because of
ill fame
because of his offenses to his daughter, because of not having prevented her death, and because of his great envy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So what do they mean over here by great envy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Why does it say that?
Yeah, so we can read and okay, yeah, let's read the purport. We have 4 minutes, Mataji. Go ahead and read it.
Okay. Daksha is described here as most hard-hearted and therefore unqualified to be a Brahmana. Brahma Druk is described by some commentators to mean Brahma Bandhu or friend of the Brahmanas. A person who is born in a Brahmana family but has no Brahmanical qualifications is called a Brahma Bandhu. Brahmanas are generally very soft-hearted and forbearing because they have the power to control the senses and the mind. Daksha, however, was not forbearing, for the simple reason that his son-in-law, Lord Shiva, did not stand up to show him the formality of respect. He became so angry and hard-hearted that he tolerated even the death of his dearest daughter. Sati tried her best to mitigate the misunderstanding between the son-in-law and the father-in-law by coming to her father's house, even without an invitation, and at that time Daksha should have received her. forgetting all past misunderstandings. But he was so hard-hearted that he was unworthy to be called an Aryan or Brahmana. Thus, his ill fame still continues. Daksha means expert, and he was given this name because of his ability to beget many hundreds and thousands of children. Persons who are too sexually inclined and materialistic become so hard-hearted because of a slight loss of prestige that they can tolerate even the death of their children.
Okay, so let's see what here it is mentioned. So I think here it is being translated, great envy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So my understanding is that if you are envy towards a devotee of the Lord, then you are also envious of the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Godhead, okay.
That is how I understood in this this statement here.
Yeah, that kind of makes sense here. Okay, thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. So any other comments or any questions? Okay. If not, we'll stop here. Gandhara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Nitai Gaura Premanandi. Hari Hari.
Hari Hari
So Krishna willing, we shall see you all next Thursday. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Yeah, Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.